Hi there, it's Dave Munday, Lead Professional Officer with Unite the Union in the Health Sector. I just wanted to give another quick update following last week's about some work that I was involved in over the last 7 days. Last week was my first video and I popped it online to see what interest there was for it. I had a few hundred people watch it and a few comments back saying that they felt that it was a good way to give members an update on work that I've been doing in the last 7 days. So here is video number 2. Last week was a bumper week, something every day really. This week was a little bit slower paced, not particularly with a lack of work, which I'm sure we'd all love to have as the reality, but it just was kind of front and rear loaded in terms of work that was happening. So on Monday it was a really packed day. It started with the National Institute for Health Research Mental Health Policy Research Unit Mental Health Act event. And that certainly is a mouthful and lots of different acronyms in that one. Lots of really good sessions at the event, looking at what next after the Mental Health Act review, which obviously reported last year, and it was specifically looking at research, the research that went into the review, but more importantly asking questions about what research will come next. There were lots of really informative sessions. I actually had to jump out of a few of them because of other things that were happening on the day, but I'd definitely say some of the highlights. It was good to hear Professor Sir Simon Wesley talk about the review, but also to hear from a couple of colleagues from the Hearing Voices network who spoke about their alternative review that they did. So like I say, I would recommend you look at that, and it's really easy to hear what happened on the day because the mental health was there, Andre Tomlin, and he did live video streams of all the sessions during the day, and you can look at them on his YouTube page. He also did some companion webinars which you can also hear as well, and they're on his SoundCloud app. What I'll do after I've posted this video, I'll put links again like I did last week so you can click through all of them. Like I said, I kept jumping in and out of that event. The first reason was to speak to Maria Bharata, who is the Champion Network Manager at the Maternal Mental Health Alliance. I've been involved in the work that they've done over the last few years, primarily through attending the first 1001 Critical Days All-Party Parliamentary Group. They've done some amazing work around perinatal mental health, especially with turning the perinatal mental health map from red to green, and it's been great that their work has gone alongside some really good policy announcements in terms of making sure that mums primarily have greater access to mental health services following the birth of children. Also that day I went with Jane Beech, who is Lead Professional Officer for Regulation, and Obi Amadi, who is Lead Professional Officer at Unite for Strategy, to meet with Andrea Sutcliffe and Geraldine Walters from the Nurse and Midwifery Council, the NMC. It was great to meet them. I've met both of them quite a few times already. Andrea more recently starting with the NMC as its Chief Executive. It was good to meet them to talk about the different work streams that we're involved in. One of the highlights was making sure that they're aware of the huge diversity that we have in the Unite membership for those that are registered with the Nurse and Midwifery Council. Sometimes because the largest organisation of registrants is the Community Practitioners and Health Visitors Association, sometimes maybe think that we are mostly interested in health visiting and school nurses. But actually, as you'll know from the work that I do, we have a real diversity of membership, including our brilliant Mental Health Nursing Association members. And obviously on the day I could give them a few reminders about that and talk about the work that mental health nurses do. It's great because I think that there's a real kind of strong insight there from Andrea from her previous work at the Care Quality Commission. So it's great that she is now in that position, hopefully to make sure that mental health nursing isn't forgotten about when they look at new changes that the NMC will lead on. In terms of the NMC, There was also the NMC Council last week on Wednesday. Our lead, like I say, Jane Beech, did a few tweets from there, and it's worth just having a look at her timeline if you wanted to get a really quick update on the work that went on. Also that day, I had a quick chat with Ben Hannigan, who is the chair of the Mental Health Nurse Academics UK group. So that's a collection of all the professors from across the UK that work on mental health courses, and also other staff can get involved in that too. It's always good to catch up with Ben just to make sure that we're both aware of the different work that we're involved in, and obviously I could talk to him about some of the messages that I've been hearing from the NHS long-term plan. That evening I went to the Dangur lecture that was run by the Royal Society of the Royal Society of Medicine, and they have that annual event. This year it was delivered, the lecture, by Martin Lewis, who many of you will know as the money saving expert. I also know him as the founder of the Money and Mental Health Policy Institute, and that group under the leadership of Helen has done some brilliant work over the last few years since it was created. Obviously, as the name suggests, they do a lot of work looking at the impact around money and mental health, and the lecture last week also coincided with the launch of some more statistics that they have investigated, and again I'll put links in the bottom of today's video stream. To jump a few days, on Thursday I joined in the King's Fund online event, and that was looking at the NHS long-term plan and mental health. And as with all good live streams, you can now watch it again as a recorded event, and I will put again the link in the bottom of this video. It was interesting. The panel was made up of reps from the National Survivor User Network, Home Group, which is a provider of housing and support, and a colleague from Mind. What was interesting, I thought, was that even though discussing the NHS long-term plan, it's good to get views from outside of the NHS sector, but it was interesting that there was no one on the panel from the NHS. And the actual subtitle of the event was "A Positive Way Forward?" What was interesting for me was it felt quite negative, the stuff that was being said during the session. And it'd be interesting if you do get to watch it yourself, let me know what you thought about it. Topics that were covered included prevention, workforce, leadership, and the negatives around the long-term plan. And like I say, it's certainly worth a look. On Friday, it was a day that was focused primarily on applied psychology members. So first up, I had a meeting with our chair of the Applied Psychology Organising Professional Committee, Anthony Vassilos, and also with Unite National Officer Jackie Williams. She is the National Officer with the responsibility for mental health. Following that, the three of us headed to meet Hannah Farndon from the British Psychological Society. She's an advisor for professional practice there. It was good to meet her. I have met a few people from the BPS previously, but it's good to meet wider members of their team. I've got to say, coming from nursing, the psychological services and the staff that work in them can feel like a really complex field. There seems to be so many different divisions, so many different subjects that the colleagues get involved with and lead on, and I've found that's been one of the hardest things to kind of get my head around as I've led on mental health at Unite. Hopefully I am slowly getting there with opportunities like the one I had to meet with Hannah last week. And certainly Anthony is a great person to educate around, to provide his knowledge around applied psychology, because it's certainly a field that he is expert in. I had to leave that meeting early as well, because I then went to meet with some of our child psychotherapist members, some child psychotherapist managers, and also colleagues from the Association of Child Psychotherapists. We also joined by someone from Health Education England to have a discussion about the future of the profession, and that was a really, really helpful meeting as well, just to get a real insight into the massive work that they do, which is highly complex, and especially kind of the entry routes into the profession, quite a complicated route that people have to take. Again, as a nurse working in a completely different kind of reality to that, it's certainly interesting to kind of hear them speak. Just to bring you a bit more up to date, today looking at the new edition of the Mental Health Nursing Journal. Our next edition, which will be released probably in the next 2 weeks, is a special edition. We do special editions 2 to 3 times a year in general, and this next one will be on art and mental health. So today I got to read all the articles that will be featuring in the journal, and sending back edits for any issues with any of the, the way it's ends up on the paper. It will be a really good, interesting edition, and I've already shared a little snippet from that on Twitter today, from our Inside the Mind, which again, one of my favourite parts of the journal at the moment. So please do keep your eye out for that hitting doorsteps in the next couple of weeks. If you aren't a member and you want to get a copy of it, my advice is to join. But if you don't join, you can also get an individual subscription or a subscription through your university or through your employer. So if you want more details on that and you don't know what to do, then please do get in touch. But I'll be sharing more on social media over the next few weeks as the edition hits people's doorsteps. The other thing that I just wanted to mention, this weekend, a great weekend for me, I did my 100th park run. I'm quite an avid park runner, and if there's any other Mental Health Nurse Association members out there that are park runners, I would really like to hear from you. One of the reasons that I want to do that is hoping to get some information about the mental health aspects of Parkrun in a future journal, and it'd be good if we could find out the mental health nurse that has done the most number of park runs or has done the most interesting park run niches. So if you are a mental health nurse park runner, let me know, get in touch, and let's see if there's going to be some interest in a future edition of the journal on that subject. Okay, great to speak to you today. Again, another busy week. I'll be off to Esher tomorrow. I should have said I'm in Salford Quays at the moment. I'm actually sat behind my desk for a change. It's not often that I get to sit here. Tomorrow I'll be off to Esher for 2 days with our ambulance workers. So I'll be joining the ambulance professionals organising professional committee. And then the day after that, which will be Thursday, I will be with the team, the United Health team, for our quarterly team get together and catch up. After that, I will be away for annual leave for a week, so I don't know if there'll be another of these for a few weeks, but I'm sure you will cope if there is a slight pause. Great to see you, and do get in touch if there's anything that you want to ask or anything you want to follow up with after today's video or anything else that's going on. And as always, if you want to hear what I'm up to closer to the time that I'm up to it, then please do follow me on Twitter at David A. Munday. That's Munday. And I always share the work that I'm getting done on members' behalves. Thanks for joining me today, and hope to see you soon.